I'm Father Robert Hendrickson, the Chief of Discipleship Initiatives at Forward Movement and the Director of the Center for Discipleship and Renewal, CEDAR, at Forward Movement. Welcome to the Telling Our Stories course with Father Andrew Stravitz and Kristin Tovar. Andrew and Kristin developed this resource with CEDAR, and we are delighted to share it with you.
My name is Father Andrew Stravitz. I am a priest and a marriage and family therapist, which means I am constantly hearing people's stories. And I've had to spend a lot of time learning how to tell a story, how to understand a story, and especially how to understand my own story. I grew up in a home with a dad who was a secular Jew from New York. My mom was a Mennonite farm girl from South Dakota, which has left me mostly confused. And so I've had to figure out who I am. At home, we grew up loosely Jewish, and outside of the home, we were part of an evangelical church. This left me really confused because in the Jewish tradition, you belong to the faith at birth. In the evangelical tradition, there's more focus on how you become a Christian over time, and once you learn the right things and adopt the right beliefs. And so both of these things are good, and both of them shaped me. But it led to a lot of confusion, especially when I was 16, giving a sincere testimony, public testimony for the first time at my baptism, saying that I never understood God before, and having this twinge of dissonance and confusion within myself because I remembered praying to God since I was a very young child. So many of us have similar experiences that we don't know how to fit into the scripts that we have on hand for understanding our faith journeys. Here's what I think is going on. Most of us, when it comes to our faith story, we get handed a script. And there are basically two scripts on offer in American Christianity. Script one is the conversion or evangelical script. There's a before and an after. There's a moment, a crisis, a night, or an aisle that you walked down, a prayer that you prayed. You can name that date probably. You could probably tell this testimony in 3 minutes at a dinner party. But the script tells you what you have to believe in order to follow Jesus. Script two is the liturgical, or maybe it's a mainline script. Usually your parents brought you up in this tradition. They handed you a way to pray, a way to sit, a way to kneel, a way to stand, a way to sing. You learned the motions, and you belonged because you were always belonging there. But perhaps you didn't really understand what you were participating in. This script tells you what you have to do in order to follow Jesus. Now, and this is important, both scripts have shaped real people. They've shaped saints. They've shaped my own life in different seasons. I'm not here to throw shade on either one. But the pastoral problem is also a cultural problem. Most people's actual lives don't fit either script cleanly. And when your life doesn't fit the script, what do? You go quiet. There are a million scripts, even besides the religious scripts. We see this all the time. People who clearly, evidently love God in the way that they live. People who clearly, evidently love others in the way that they treat one another. They treat their kids well. They are generous. They are looking to be kind wherever they go. But they think their story doesn't count because it doesn't fit either of the scripts. Sometimes it was too dramatic of a story. Maybe it wasn't dramatic enough and it doesn't really fit into the conversionist script that looks for these moments of clarity and conviction. We see this in the conversion script, which may not resonate with those of us whose faith developed over a period of time really early in our childhood, rather than all in one particular moment. It can also unintentionally exclude children who do not seem to have those moments of crisis, those types of stories to share. The liturgical script might unintentionally leave out the ways that the Spirit does move in conviction, in these piercing moments of clarity and conviction. For others, there's a long stretch in the middle where they weren't sure of anything. And others have been handed a script that has actually harmed them. And the Gen Z and millennial version of this might not even be religious. You might have been handed the script of being a productive person, being the best ally, being a self-made person, healing your trauma the right way. And as a therapist, I really love that, but it also is its own script that a lot of folks don't feel like they fit into. And your actual life doesn't fit and doesn't make sense. And you go quiet about the parts that don't fit. So I think the gospel has something to say to all of that. But before it can, we have to get out from under the scripts. We have to make a move that can make sense and make space for all stories. And I think what that move is friendship. What if telling your story isn't thinking the right things like the conversionist script wants? And what if it's not about doing the right things like the liturgical script might say? But what if it's instead discovering the friendship of God that has actually been happening in your life? Most of us walk around with a really vague sense of our own life. We've got a few highlights, a few wounds, a few jokes we like to tell in order to make the wounds less stinging. But we don't really know our own story until we sit down and try to tell it honestly. And then, this is the wild part, we start to see things we didn't see before. Patterns. We start to see people who carried something to us that we didn't have words for at the time. Moments that we wrote off as coincidence, but in retrospect were the only times that we were really meeting God through friendship. I want to call this the long handwriting of your actual story. Your life is a story. Your life is being written. And most of it we can't read in real time. We have to read it looking backwards. And that's when we tell our story slowly, honestly, without forcing it into a script. And it's one of the main ways that we begin to learn who we really are. Paul writes this beautiful thing to the church in Corinth. He says, "You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts." You're a letter. Your life is a letter. Your life is the story of friendship with God. The Spirit of God, whatever you might make of that word, that phrase right now, has been writing on you since before you knew how to read. Through the people who loved you, through your love for others in need, through the questions you couldn't really put down, through the moments of unaccountable grace where something held even though you can't explain why. The world is already reading you. The only question is whether you have the words for what's written there. Now, I have to use a word that probably makes some of you flinch, and I'm going to ask you to stay with me with this. The word is evangelism. For a lot of people, evangelism sounds like coercion or condescension. It sounds like someone's trying to corner you. It sounds like someone with a script trying to get you to recite their slogans. I want to propose a different definition, the original definition. Evangelism literally just means announcing good news. And the most honest way to announce good news is to tell the truth about the great things that have happened, to be excited about the beauty and justice and transcendence that God is accomplishing in your actual story. When you tell your story honestly, in relationship to the story of Jesus, not pasted into it, not forced into it, but in relationship to it, something beautiful happens. The person across from you stops feeling pitched at because you're not selling anything. They start feeling met because you're sharing life, not twisting it. Because they have a story too, and they've been hiding parts and blind to parts of it just like we have. And maybe, just maybe, your willingness to tell your story of friendship with God will give them permission to find the words for their own stories. Here's the claim I want to land on. The gospel isn't a script you paste over your own story, and it certainly doesn't want you to redact or edit your story to fit into it. It's the claim that you are known, not just observed, not just tolerated, but known by name by a God who isn't trying to recruit you or grade you. It's the claim that the long handwriting of your life isn't random. It's the claim that the people who carried something to you were carrying something they didn't fully understand maybe, and that's okay because the thing they were carrying is older and bigger than all of us. And if that's true, and I think it is, then telling your story isn't selling something or persuading someone, it's bearing witness. You are a letter. You're worth reading. The good news is that the writer is a great author and your story is a classic.